There are some 5 quick changes that have been introduced in the affordable housing document that President William Ruto is supposed to sign to law anytime from now. And after a long debate in both the houses, the National Assembly and the Senate, the document was presented. Is already within 14 days supposed to be presented to the Parliament, to the President with the 2 speakers of the National Assembly. And of course, because it's now from the Senate Speaker is the person now to forward the copy to the President. And anytime from now, it's supposed to be signed. What has raised eyebrows are some developments that are now emerging. And I want you to take a minute to look at these 5 and what exactly is the impact. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell and like our videos. When the High Court termed that levy unconstitutional, it argued on, amongst other things, that it was discriminatory. That levy was discriminatory only to predate on people's pay slips, while those who are in the informal sector were not included. And amongst others that were also put there, they also said it was not constitutional. There was no legislative framework on how that money was going to be used, or rather collected, and all that were actually put there. So what is so curious is how the document has been edited, especially the final copy that has come from the 2 houses, and have gotten wind of the document that came from the Senate immediately after it was passed. Number 1, and I want you to pay attention to this, introduction of institutional housing. Institutional housing, they are saying it includes, amongst other factors, the public institutions such as the universities, hospitals, and security forces, because of the scope of those paying. The scope of those paying, the affordable housing project now extends to public institutions and will not just affect individual homes only. So, amongst other structures they are going to build are hostels, both used by students or maybe servant quarters that are going to be used by doctors, and maybe for security forces. Probably they're looking at the KDF because it's cutting across. As to whether that was the intended ideology of housing levy, you may not understand, because some civil servants are actually supposed to benefit, and that doesn't cut across. It's only those ones that they have already mentioned, and that's subject to some pay. Now, the other second bit is inclusion of entities to implement the housing project, and this is critically important. I want you to pay attention to get what exactly is being edited here. The High Court argued that there needed to be independent body, or rather institutional body, that will be mandated purely to deal with this housing levy. Not that this money will be used, just get its way into the consolidated fund. And William Ruto team edited this document, and they said that after collecting that 1.5% levy from your salary, 30% will go into the National Housing Corporation. Another 30% will be channeled to slum upgrading programs, maintenance and rehabilitation, and the rest to the State Department for matters relating on affordable housing. So out of that 1.5%, 30% National Housing Corporation, 30% slum upgrading. So the remaining 40% is what will go to affordable housing program. Now this is the new development, and if you've been asking whether all of it will go to there, clearly there is a clear point here that that money and the other one include the private sector and the county government, contrary to plan, where there was an independent body that will set up to oversee this. So housing levy will not fall independent, as there is a housing project. All that money will not go into housing. The others will go to slum upgrading. And of course, the president has been struggling to explain why how that money is going to help, how the house is being built is going to help in slum upgrading. There is also another interesting change you need to look at here. In the previous document, they indicated that despite the fact that you contribute or not, you will have to raise 10% deposit before you even occupy the house. You get the house, then you'll continue paying the monthly contribution. Now, they are saying that 10% deposit has been scrapped, and not that the percentage has been reduced, because people argued the percentage to be reduced, but they are saying Treasury will decide on the new rate. So it will be upon the Treasury to decide. And I can throw in my speculation here. Clearly, the Treasury will use the market rate. If the affordable housing units are in Nakuru and the neighboring rate, they look at what's happening, that's what they will use, amongst other factors. Now, there is another interesting one here. A person who misses out on any unit, on the housing unit, after making voluntary savings, can ask for a refund with accrued interest. The said person will be required to write a 90-day notice to the agency, which allows the money to be recovered. This is the biggest con in this. Hakuna mtu atarudishiwa pesa. Why? Look at the last change. If one fails to pay the levy after the due date, a penalty equal to 3% of the unpaid amount. A penalty equal to 3% of the unpaid amount. If you default by 15%, a penalty be 1,500. The penalty will be 3% of that 1,500. Shall be imposed on each month that it remains unpaid. Why? This aims to discourage Kenyans from defaulting on payments. The penalties and amounts owed shall be recovered as a civil debt from the defaulter. So what I'm wondering here is, it is voluntary. It is compulsory. If you don't get the house, if you don't get the house, you can seek refund. How many are contributing? We have over 700,000 civil servants, plus the other people in the private sector. Almost 2 million people are going to contribute. Do we have 2 million houses? No. All of them, someone said, exempt those who do not need houses, so that we work with those who need houses. This is what has been decided. And I just want to go straight and look at just the red flags in this, why this development is not a very good one, I think, for those who are looking at it. With rates subject to Treasury, a decision from Treasury, the houses will be sold at market rate. And so the issue of affordable housing does not still come up. In fact, you were told about houses being built here and there. You're now being told about hostels in schools. So money is even being deducted from you to build houses and schools. Things seems to have changed. And what so far we've done, I think there is a big question William Ruto is struggling to answer. Accountability headache on how the money is spent. That's the big question. Accountability on how that money is going to be spent. That is the big question, and that is why kuna kutapatapa. And let's see. Lastly, I see a tax refund here. This thing is a levy. I don't know if there's a levy as a tax. It is compulsory. But if you don't get the house, you can apply for refund. Question, after how long? The houses are being built. After 1 year, there's some houses that will be available. So who are these? At what point do you say, I have contributed enough, I cannot get the house, or I don't want the house, so I need to get refund? Because how will you say you don't get the house, and maybe you live in Nairobi and the house is in Samburu? You'll be told there is a house in Samburu, so instead of tax refund, go and occupy that house. If all of us apply for tax refund, will we be able to be refunded? Big question on that. Remember, as someone says about refund, where would this refund coming from? If The money has already been subdivided to what is going to affordable housing, what's going to national corporation, what's going to slum upgrading. So the money you're saying you're going to refund, where is it coming from? Has Levy remained the biggest scam? Let's meet in the next case.